Welcome, I'm Josh. Today we're going to use a calculator to answer this problem. This problem has 4 components to it. We have 3 times 12 over 7 times 5 over 19 times 11 over 4. Alright, and we're going to use a calculator to answer this question. I'm going to show 2 different ways of using the calculator. All right, the first way is going to not use any parentheses, okay? It's a method, when I've shown others, they often report this to be a more reliable way of doing a calculation, a perhaps safer way, and this can be done using any calculator. The second method is maybe a faster way of doing it, involving only one calculation. But you're going to need a calculator that allows you to have multiple steps written into a single line. So I'm going to show both ways. All right, so the problem we have at hand, again, we're going to be tackling the first way, so I rewrote it here. Okay, feel free to pause the video whenever you like for note-taking or rewinding purposes and such. All right, so I rewrote the problem here. And all the numerators, all the top parts, I circled in blue, and I'm just calling it top. And I did the same thing with the denominators, calling it the bottom. All right, so in this first method, we're going to be calculating the top and then the bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, we have our 4 top numbers. 3 times 12 times 5 times 11. Let's go ahead and get an answer to this right now. I'll be using the Texas Instruments TI-30X2S. Alright, so 3 times 12 times 5 times 11. Okay, see how I'm able to do multiple operations in the same line? That's what I call a multi-step calculator. This would work perfectly fine in like, a calculator about maybe $10 US or less. It would be okay. All right, let me hit equals on this. I get 1,980. 1980. All right. For the bottom portion, we have 7 times 19 times 4. Okay. All right, and we get 532. All right, now to get our final answer, to answer to this problem of what all this is equal to, let's take our top answer, 1980, and let's divide it by our bottom answer of 532. $19.80 divided by 532. Oops, let me get on the screen. There we go. All right, and I'm just going to round this to 3.72. All right. If you're needing a fraction form for the answer, you might be lucky to have a calculator that will allow for that. All right, mine does. If you have something similar, what I'm going to do here, I hit second, and then I hit this FD button here, and then it gives me a fraction of 3 plus 96 over 133. All right. If I wanted not a mixed fraction, but like a regular fraction, I could hit second, and then I could hit this button over here, and that'll take it out of a mixed fraction to this form here, 495 over 133. The fraction or the decimal, not so much the focus of my video here. Going forward, I'm just going to be sticking with this 3.72 as the correct answer. All right, so that's a top divided by bottom. Again, this takes 3 calculations, calculating a top, calculating the bottom, and then the third calculation is dividing it. But you get the answer. It doesn't take a ton of time, even though it's 3 steps. And many that I've taught before find this to be a secure, reliable way of doing things. Now the second method, okay, we're going to use parentheses, okay? Be ready for this slide to be a little bit busier, okay? Again, pause if you need it. All right, and to make a long story short, you're going to need bottom parentheses. You're going to need parentheses for all of those items that were in the denominator, okay, the denominators. All right, so that would be our 7, 19, and 4 in parentheses, okay? With these 2 green check marks, I'm indicating that either of these lines will work. Either are good, okay? So feel free to do it either way, all right? I'm going to calculate this top portion as written, 3 times 12 times 5 times 11 divided by, open a parentheses, 7 times 19 times 4. Sorry, I was covering that. Don't forget to close the parentheses, and I'm going to hit equals on that, and you can see that I get the original answer of 3.72. All right. You are welcome to put parentheses for the top portion as well. Maybe that makes things feel neat, tidy, secure, those sorts of things. All right, so I'll show you. Now you get the same answer, 3 times 12 times 5 times 11, close parentheses, divide, open parentheses, 7 times 19 times 4, close that, hit equals, same thing. All right, so both methods work. Please see that we're using parentheses for the bottom numbers. All right, where I want to conclude this video, maybe you got what you needed, but if you had asked a question, what happens if you don't do the bottom parentheses? Well, then you're gonna have some issues, okay? You're gonna have some order of operations sorts of problems. So rather than explaining that, I'm just gonna show what happens. Let's see if we did top parentheses only. Okay, hopefully you see here that even though it makes the top look tidy and nice, it doesn't necessarily help us, okay? This kind of hurts me to do since I'm in the habit of using bottom parentheses, but I'll just do it. 7 times 19 times 4, okay? And you can see we get a much, much, much different answer, okay? 21497, okay? That is not the correct answer. We've already established 3.72 is, okay? And if you're curious what happened, it in the mind of the calculator, it thought that you were trying to do that, okay? And so what it did in the mind of the calculator is it threw those 2 numbers into the numerator. In other words, it thought that your intention was to do that, okay? And we can see that is not resembling that, okay? So again, bottom parentheses important to signal to the calculator you meant for those to be in the denominator. In other words, use those bottom parentheses. Okay, and just to close out this video, I'll do that bottom one. Okay. I didn't quite get on the screen, so I'll do that one more time. Oh, the 4. Yeah. All right, and it results in the same issue as last time, and this is not the correct answer. Okay, so the moral of the story is this. Okay, in summary, if you're going to do the first way, okay, just get a top and bottom answer, divide them out. Okay, no parentheses required. Okay, so very reliable. If you want to be fast, do everything in one calculation. I often do. That's totally fine. Just make sure you use those bottom parentheses. All right, thank you very much.